Hello everyone. I thought I'd make this video, which is probably the sixth one I've had to make, just to set the record straight. It is getting kind of annoying to say the least, but I have to do this for you guys, for myself, and for everyone else. Like all my family and friends, if you're watching family and friends, you already know about this. Don't worry about it, right? So you may have seen a link or an article about me, which really does paint a very bad picture. It really does. The headline itself looks absolutely terrible. It's of a case I pleaded guilty to, but wasn't guilty of. So we'll dive into that. And I just wanted to give you my side of the story, because what the papers don't do, if you plead guilty to a case, is they don't paint the side of the other person that well, if that makes sense. They drag just the defendant through the mud. So, I'll talk you through the incident itself, and then I'll ask you also to do me a massive favour, which is simply, I'll do that now actually, just do not reply to these people. Do not feel the need to stick up for me, okay? Just let these people continue doing what they're doing, alright? I'm not bothered by it. I know what's true. You know, I've got my family, I've got my partner, I've got my kids. If any of this was true, I wouldn't have the friends of different faiths that I have. I wouldn't have the friends of different colours that I have. I wouldn't have my partner. I wouldn't be allowed near my children. Okay, so these people literally have no brain. Okay, but let's talk about it anyway. I feel like it's important because I don't want anyone to feel deterred of turning up to the protest. Even though I'm not organising it or representing it this time, I just want to put this out there and set the record straight and use this video for future references as well also. So this is for protests, this is for my YouTube, this is for everything, okay? Just need to save this and pass it on. Right, so let's go back all the way back to 2018. This is how pathetic this is. I was at the lowest of my life. I was at a time where I had just lost my job with the ambulance service. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing these because I got a migraine, not because I think I'm cool. Okay, just wanted to, before anyone starts putting that in the comments, and I'm not trying to hide my identity. I have a migraine, and I suffer with migraines. I've got multiple health conditions. I get migraines. That's it. It's as simple as that. Anyway, let's go back to 2018. I'd found my ex-partner naked on a sofa with one of my so-called best friends. That destroyed a 6-year relationship that I was in and with and raised 2 young boys with. It broke my heart. I was already a functioning alcoholic at the time, but this drove my alcoholism to a point where I was a complete mess. Okay? I was literally a mess that you could not do anything with. And I let a lot of people down. I was at rock bottom. And for those who have friends or family that have had problems with alcoholism or any kind of substance misuse, you would understand what it's like for someone when they're at this point. So I went from having a home, a nice home, a family environment, a job, a car, everything that I wanted, money in the bank, everything, to being homeless. Even though it was my partner who had done the wrong, I was the one that lost the family. I didn't just lose her, I lost 2 children in the process that I had raised as my own. I had spent thousands of pounds on. I loved them like they were my own sons. I thought I was set for life. I also lost my job. I lost my car. I lost everything. And I was put into temporary accommodation. And in total, I went through 32 inpatient detoxes, just in hospitals alone. Now, the alcoholism got that bad because I was drinking daily, and then because I had to go from working full-time to signing on for the first time ever, I was living off like £370 a month, which made me have to drink this white cider stuff. It wasn't pleasant, and I had lowered myself to even hanging around with the street drinkers. This is how bad it was and how bad it got for me, because I was put in a different location so I could be assessed to see if I could live independently by P3. Then I got put into this supported accommodation, and to me it was just like, look, I know how to wash my clothes. I know how to wash up a plate. Like, can you not give me a flat? Can you not, I'm okay. Just help me find accommodation and I'll be all right. I just need to sober up and, I need to find myself again. But it just wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening fast enough. So anyway, I'm walking to my brother's this day. I had already got kicked out of all the temporary and supported accommodation because of my alcoholism. Most of these places had a rule of that you could not drink alcohol, and if you were caught drinking alcohol or caught drunk whilst at the premises, you'd be kicked out. So I got kicked out of all those. But also, I'll agree and put my hands up as well, I was no angel. I was a violent drunk. And I used to shout things and get into scraps and scrapes and all sorts. My head was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And let me tell you something. The drunk me versus the sober me is completely different. I am, and anyone will tell you who knows me, like, I'm 6'7" and as big built as I am, tattooed head to toe, I am the most softest, friendliest person you'll meet. I am the BFG. Alright? And I'll literally do anything for anyone. Anyone who knows me will tell you that. Okay? I love everyone. I don't like having enemies. I hate having enemies. I don't believe in having enemies, and I don't believe in hate. I just don't like it. So, anyway, I was walking to my brother's this day, and there was a mob of youth that had a Bluetooth speaker playing music, could smell the smell of weed. And I was minding my own business, walking to my brother's. I was going to ask him if I could stay at his tonight. Okay, this can all be verified. You can go and check this out. Go and speak with my brother. If you want to take it that far, you can. Now, I was walking there. Just got off the bus. And as I walked past this group, I remember them calling me a tramp. Because I must have smelled. Alright, I was already, at the time, this is a point where I was living in a tent. So, access to showers and stuff like that. I was rock bottom. So I got called a tramp. I let that go. It was the moment I felt a tug on my bag. That was when it was it for me. I felt a tug on my backpack, which had the only belongings that I had on me. The only belongings that I had left after all was said and done. I had to kiss goodbye to everything when I lost the accommodation that I was in, because they said you either take it somewhere, which I had nowhere to put it, or we throw it out. So all my belongings got thrown out, stuff that I've had for years, memorabilia, everything, it all got destroyed. So you got to think how my mindset is already, and I'm thinking the world's against me, everything. I'm simply trying to walk to my brother's, and I've got a group, and you know what groups nowadays, like, and now I wear the same clothes, which doesn't help, but in tracksuits, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but we already, you would know what I mean. When you're walking through somewhere, and there's a group, and they're all wearing tracksuits, they're listening to music, violent music, grime, rap, whatever you want to call it, smoking weed, giving you abuse already. You're already thinking they're in some type of gang or what have you. When I felt the bag being pulled, I thought immediately this is a street robbery. So I turn around and I'm like, yo, what is this? What you're trying to do? Is this what's going on? Next thing you know, I receive a blow to the face. It is me that takes the first blow. Okay? I don't know where the papers get this from, or what they've written is obviously the account of theirs, because I pled guilty. So it only displayed their side of the story, not mine. But here's my side of the story. I was the first one to receive a blow to the face. Now, I do not care, and I will make this very clear, and I'm sure many of you will agree. It does not matter how old you are, right? And from my understanding, from looking at them in the tracksuits, to be able to smoke weed and to be able to listen to the music they were listening to, and to me, they did look a lot older than what they originally were. But let me tell you something, they were not school children, okay? They were sixth form students, aka meaning they were 17, 18 years of age. They were adults. Let me tell you something about age. My great-grandfather was 14 when he enlisted to fight for World War II. He was fighting Nazis at the age of 14. So if he could do that at the age of 14, I'm pretty sure it's easy for a 17 or an 18-year-old to get away with a street robbery, is it not? So anyway, they're trying to get my bag. I'm tossing and tumbling over them, trying to keep hold of my bag. At the same time, blows are flowing everywhere. I don't know who I'm hitting because there's 4 of them there. All I want is my bag and make sure that my bag doesn't disappear. Sadly, it did. 3 of them got away with it. They made off with my bag. Now, there was this one person who stayed behind, had her hood up, right? And I didn't know it was a female until she pulled her hood down. And then again, started calling me a tramp and started calling me all these names under the sun. And then the hood went down, she started to peg it, and I said, who are you to call a tramp when you've dyed your hair green and pink, when you've dyed your dreadlocks green and pink, right? Now, if you want to consider that a racial comment, by all means, do so. But it wasn't meant to be racially aggravated, okay? It was simply the political left, as you know, they all have weird hairstyles, they all have these pink, blue, green colours in their hair, pride, all that nonsense, right? And it's at this time of when all this George Floyd stuff's going on and they're all the left are mobilised. And yeah, so it was more of a, it was just the fact that it was funny, right? And I've got friends from the Afro-Caribbean islands, if you like, and they have dreadlocks. They would not for a second dream of dyeing them blue, pink or green, because I've spoken to them about this. They said in fact it's actually a massive part of their culture, like their hairstyles, and that to do that would be like a like, especially in the African side of things, would be kind of like not a sin, but yeah, not good, if that makes sense. So, you know, they said you were right for saying what you did. They said we would have said the same. And, but I didn't mean for it to be a racially thing. Now, anyway, fast track it. They run into someone's house, lock the door, they got my bag. I stand outside the house, I'm kicking the door in. Because in that bag is the last things that I've got, including a vial of my dog's ashes. The dog that I just lost, and a dog that had raised a heck load of money for Teckles. A dog that was my best friend and saved my life. He's in papers all across the world. You type in Geo Taylor and you'll see stories about him, and what he done for me. Okay, and how much he meant to me. So I'm stood kicking this door. Of course, these 17, 18-year-olds then got scared and thought, shit, we have literally just taken the bag off someone and it's turned ugly and he's not going. They ring the police. The police turn up and I'm thinking, hallelujah, they're going to help me get my bag back. Oh no. They turn up because these guys have rang them. I get tasered, I get put in the back of a van, I get taken to the police station, and I am shouting the whole way there, they've got my bag, go and get my bag. They wouldn't. And it was hours later that they went to take statements from them, which I believe they should have took statements from them there and then, individually, to get their side of the story, because all of them was jumbled up, because 3 of them had already left, and there was one that had stayed behind. That would have made a trial a lot easier for me. However, they didn't go until a lot later, which comes to the trial bit. Anyway, they went to take the statements, and come to the time of the trial, I'm already in prison. Because I was homeless, and they bailed me from that point, and life was that bad at that point that I had to do something to save my life. I died 3 times in total, got defibrillated and had CPR from blood loss. I had what they call esophageal varices. So down your esophagus, your windpipe that goes down, you have veins. And the pressure of your liver, basically the blood, it will produce that amount of pressure that these veins then can erupt, or they turn into like DVTs, if you like, and then they explode. And once they explode, then you bleed out. It's internal bleeding, and they have to stop it there. It's an emergency. One of them can kill you. I had 13 go off all at once. It wasn't pretty. And I had like clots the size of cricket balls coming out my mouth. It was vile. But I couldn't stop the withdrawal symptoms from the alcohol, and it was hell. I lived through hell. And every time I got released from hospital, it was the same situation. They released me with nowhere to go, and then I'd end up with the same circle of friends who I thought were friends of mine, because that's the only people you got to talk to. And then that's it. You don't get no further help again. So then, of course, you just start drinking again because you're down. And anyway, so I got to a point where I lost half my body weight. I was yellow. My eyes were yellow. I had already died 3 times. I'd been hospitalized in intensive care several times, with my family being told that I wasn't going to leave the hospital again. So I thought something needs to change. Now, unfortunately, I don't come from a family that's got all this money for rehabilitation or anything like that. So I couldn't do anything like that. The only thing I could think of that would simply separate me from alcohol, because I knew alcohol was my demon and that it was killing me and that I would be dead within days if I continued, was prison. So I smashed the council window with a lad named Dave Collins, and his nickname's Turbo, from Cheltenham. And we waited for the police, and I begged the police to remand me. They remanded me, and then, of course, like 8 or 9 months later, this trial comes up, and I'm already in prison. Now, when the trial comes up, I'm thinking, okay, I'd already had accommodation set up and everything like that, and I'm thinking I'm going to win this trial because the truth is the truth, and you cannot deny the truth. And I'm thinking, hopefully, my barrister is going to be that shit hot. He's going to get the truth out of these, 17, 18-year-olds, okay? Which is why I chose it to go to Crown Court. I chose this to go to Crown Court, not stay at magistrates. All right, so let's bear that in mind too. Anyway, it comes to the day of the trial. My barrister comes onto the cam, because I had to do it by video link. And he said to me, "You have got no chance whatsoever of winning this trial." I said, "What do you mean? You're supposed to be defending me. You go in that room and you tell them my side of the story." And he said, "Mr. Taylor, with all due respect, there is 5 people's accounts that literally all look identical versus yours. They're 17, 18. Some of them have gone on to be 19 at this point, by the way. So the headline for school children is inaccurate now as well, by the way. But yeah, it's so yeah, we're at that point, and he's saying, "Look, you're not going to win this trial. Not only that, you also have previous. You've got previous for perverting the course of justice," which means basically perjury. I was an alibi for someone who had done something wrong back in the 2011-2012 riots. Again, years and years ago. I said I'd be an alibi for him and said that he stayed at mine a night just in case the police came knocking on my door, even though I didn't want to, but because he was a friend, I was willing to do so. And then he grassed himself up. So that's where that is. So, anyway, that's on the record. So he said, "They'll tear you apart in that courtroom." And he says, "And I think you've been through enough to, you've been through enough in your life to go through this." He goes, "And plus, look at it on the plus side. Do you want all this to go through a trial? Do you want your background of homelessness and alcoholism, your things that happened to you when you were a child and all this stuff to be brought up? And do you want all this pressure and all this to be out? But not also that, but think of the others as well." And I did. And I thought, actually, do I want to drag these 17, 18-year-olds through a trial when they are at the beginning of their careers? And I genuinely thought about this, and I thought, do you know what? When I was 16, 17 years of age, I was playing havoc on the streets. I deserved, there was a lot of things I've done, and there's probably a lot of things that you have done that you've never been caught doing, that you'd probably still be doing time for. Now, I put my hands up. I was a little bastard, okay? I was no angel, all right? But I thought about this too, and I said to my barrister, give me 2 minutes, let me think about it. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, do the right thing. I said, in fact, whatever time they give me, I'm going to utilise, I'm going to take advantage of. I see this as a blessing, because at this point I had also just turned Christian as well. And I was like, right, okay, John, this is a blessing. This is more time for me to be away from alcohol, and this will give me more time to get qualifications whilst I'm inside. This will give me more time to sort more things out, type thing. So I thought, okay, right, I won't be dragging these through it. Let's forgive them through the faith that I had just found. And okay, let's do this. And then I go back online, I'm talking to my barrister. He said the CPS want to do a deal with you, and it's called a plea bargain. So the CPS basically come in and they do what's a plea bargain. They say, if you plead guilty, we will then recommend to the judge this, that, or the other. So in some cases, they'll say, if you plead guilty, we'll tell the judge that we believe you're not a threat to the public and that you shouldn't go to prison. So they've done that. They do that in cases all the time. So the plea bargain they offered me was that if I pled guilty to everything, so there was racially aggravated assault, how they calling someone's dreadlocks pink, green and yellow, I don't know. Apparently nowadays is racist, but let's go with that. Racially aggravated assault, 2 common assaults, and criminal damage, because apparently I broke someone's headphones. Where that come from, I don't know. And then there was assault on police, because of course I was fighting back, because I was telling the guy who tasered me, you're arresting the wrong guy. Okay, you're arresting the wrong person or people. You need to be in there. But anyway, so, and still to this day the bag hasn't been recovered, by the way. But anyway, I went on, and I took the plea bargain. And the plea bargain was to the judge that if I pled guilty, they would tell the judge to run the sentence that he was going to give me for this, to run concurrent, which means at the same time as the sentence I was already serving for the criminal damage and what was the other one? Another. So it's 2 criminal damage. So there's 2 smashed windows, and it was, I think it was spitting at a police officer or something. So yeah, it wasn't good. And I throw my hands up. I was no angel. I've told you all this. But that was my past, and I said, okay, I'll take that plea bargain. I've already discussed with my barrister. I don't want to drag these guys for anything, neither us, to start their careers. So if they did get found guilty for any chance, I know there's 5 of them versus me, but that's not likely. But if they do, then it could ruin their careers. I said, let's save everyone the time and hassle, do the right thing. I just throw my hands up, which now means I'm pleading guilty to something I haven't done. So that means whatever they have claimed that I have done, I'm saying I've done. Now it's wrong, but what would you do? Seriously, ask yourself, if your barrister, someone who has spent over 25 years in this business, is telling you you will not win, categorically 100% chance will not win this case, and then the CPS, the Crime Prosecution Service, are telling you that they'll make sure you don't get extra time, you're going to pick the best case scenario. I do not care who you are or what you say. That is exactly what you will do when you are in that situation. And that is what I done. And the papers, what did they do? Because this was at the time of George Floyd, they went and destroyed me and my name and dragged it through the mud. They put, man racially abuses school children. So they classed the fact that these guys who had robbed my bag, that is still not seen to this day, as school children. They're 17, 18 years of age. They can buy lottery tickets. In Keir Starmer's eyes, they can vote. They can enlist the army. Okay, it's insane. Okay? Now, of course, whatever happened was bad anyway. And from years ago, I've always condemned violence. I have a family now. I've moved on. I've moved on from all this. And even though I didn't do the crime in the first place, like as far as I'm concerned, I've paid my dues. But not only that, I used the prison and did something that most prisoners don't do. That 98% of prisoners don't do. I utilised every single opportunity that I had to turn my life round and genuinely rehabilitate myself. Okay? I did every workbook, every certificate, every single qualification that I possibly could. I focused on being dry and sober, and in October the 19th, I am 6 years sober and clean. Alright? So, and not only that, within days of being released, I raised £3,500 for Chris Clark, a homeless veteran who'd lost his legs serving this country, so that he did not have a pauper's funeral. Within days of being released, that's what I did, and I was miles away from Cheltenham as well when I'd done this. I set up a GoFundMe page, and this is what they don't tell you. Whilst these people who are out there to attack me, 99.9% of them I have never met, by the way, and claim to know me and met me, right? They do not tell you also that I have raised £3,500 for Chris Clark, that I had raised £616 for Sands, for my mate Lucy, who lost her son, a stillborn child. They have not also told you I raffled a holiday for a family of 4, then transported that family of 4 to Devon Cliffs because they couldn't get there, and picked them back up and brought them back home, and gave them £100 spending money on top because they told me how skint they were. Okay, I know it's not a lot, but that's all I had. Right? Not only that, they haven't told you about the times I've gone to visit people in hospital that are not my friends and go and get them makeup and stuff. They haven't told you about women that have messaged me at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and rescue them because their boyfriends have broken their nose. And I brought them home, gave them something to eat, put them up on my sofa. They haven't told you about the homeless, about me going out and feeding them. They haven't told you about the speeches I've given in school, the speeches I've given in probation, the speeches I've done with young offenders. They haven't told you about the programs I have done with probation service, the police. All of that gets thrown out the window. Because they just want to paint this one narrative. And why are they doing it? They want to deter you from coming to our protest to support it because they think that you're supporting me. You're not supporting me whatsoever. You're supporting the country. You're supporting where you live. You're supporting your kids, your future, the future for your children. It has nothing to do with me. But not only that, they want to bring me down. And they were very close to it last time, but I refused to let them do it. Why? Because last time I started, after the last protest, literally, the day of the last protest, and I'll admit this because I'm an honest man, I came home and I started carving my legs up. I had the crisis team here. I was headbutting walls. I started self-harming and I wanted to take my life. And it's important, and we look in light of what happened with Charlie Kirk, okay? Words that people use nowadays, such as bigots, fascist, Nazi, racist, far-right thug, whatever. All these labels, they are dangerous. It is dangerous language. Now, I believe in freedom of speech, but when you use words or rhetoric like that, you are simply putting targets on people's backs. Okay? And you're putting a target on my back, and not just my back, but my family's back. The actual abuse I received, and I don't care about myself, but it was more for my family. The fact that I've got children that are too scared to go out and play with their friends, or even go to school, because of what people who have never met me are writing about me online. That happened years and years and years ago that you know nothing about. Now, I don't care. I've always been brought up as a child from my father and people around me to say, if you've got something to say, go and say it to their face. Or if someone is called something, or there's a rumour going around, go and double check it. Don't listen to hearsay. Don't listen to rumours, and don't believe what you read in the papers. That's what I got brought up on, and I'm sure a lot of you got brought up the same too. And if a lot of you meet me and spended just 5 minutes with me, you would realise how soft, how caring, and how loving I am. In fact, do you know what? It's funny. One of the persons that was with me on the day of the last protest said to me, do you know what? Out of all the people here, you're probably the only person that would be able to go over to that island where those lefties are and actually have a conversation with them and find middle ground. And that's not because I believe in what they believe in, but it's because I care for them. I don't want to see no danger to people. I've turned my life around. And like I said, I'll admit, I was no angel. I do have a history. Alright? I'm not proud of it. There have been nights I have cried about it. Okay? I have done so much to turn my life around. It is unreal. Unreal. And I have got so far, and I've got my children, I've got my family, and I don't, like, even my mum and my grandmother, my father and my brother, and people like that were getting tagged in stuff that they shouldn't have been tagged in. And it's wrong. So this video is to set the record straight, tell you my side of the story, tell you the truth of what happened that day. And I'm also fighting at the moment to get this article removed offline, because I believe it's been there for years. It's being used. It's causing a credible threat to my family. It's causing a credible threat to myself, but also it's impacting my mental health. Now, in terms of you guys, do not, if they raise this, and they do, and I've seen it everywhere on all the sites, notice boards, the name calling, they use the link, oh, racist that beats it. If that was true, I wouldn't have a family. I've got a family that I love and adore. They're my everything. I would die for them. I have their names tattooed on my hands. I'm not going to show you their names for their safety, but I love them. They're my pride and joy, okay? And I don't want their safety put at jeopardy because people want to throw labels. And it's those, and they say it, those who accuse are the confessors. Because if you're trying to prevent people from speaking by using labels like you are, and doing things like what happened to Charlie Kirk and other people like Peter Lynch, getting them in jail, then we seriously have a problem in our community, especially on the left, on the political left. So all I am asking is for those, if you do see this, either report it or don't reply to them. Please do not feel the need to stick up for me. Just let them be, okay? Please leave them. Let them write what they've got to write. If you do want to do me a favour, then report it. Report it to Facebook as false news or harassment to a friend. And that's it. But don't let it deter you from coming, because it's got nothing to do with me. Representative is Ella right now. I've passed the team to them. I'm helping advise, and that is it. But yeah, I just wanted to set the record straight with you guys and seriously tell you how it is from my point of view. And yeah. Anyway, guys, keep up the good work. I genuinely, from my heart, love you all, even though I can't see you personally. I genuinely do it. Love every single soul on this planet Earth, whether I've got different opinions to them, political, religious, whatever. I do. I genuinely love every single person on this earth because I've turned my life around. I'm a Christian. I'm Eastern Orthodox. I do have my health issues. I've got end-stage liver disease that I'm awaiting a transplant, and I have a blood cancer disorder called PV, polycythemia vera, JAK2, which is a genetic disorder. That plus my L3, L4, and L5 discs are herniated, and I've got rheumatoid arthritis in my right and left knees. But yeah, so I do have a lot to deal with, but yeah, man, I just sometimes like you have to do things like this because, especially when we see what's happened with Charlie, you know, like simply it just takes one crazy person to genuinely believe that I am a racist when I am not. That's why I sent and put up that collage of 21 different people from 12 different backgrounds and faiths that are good friends of mine, best friends of mine. Some of them are actually speaking at the next protest. Because I am not, I'm not a racist. That's something that I am not, and anyone who knows me will tell you that. And I would never, ever, ever harm a child. That is, again, another vicious rumour. And let me tell you, most of these people as well are best friends with one of my ex-partners. And she has done a good job over the years of spreading a lot of false information about me. To the point where there have been so many harassment warnings against her that if she carries on, then an injunction is going to have to take place. But again, if you see these things, just take it for how it is. It just is what it is. Okay? It's bullshit. It's BS. And it's just them just trying to hurt us as a movement and trying to hurt me individually. And for me, at this moment in time, I'm just gathering the evidence and the names of those that are writing it. And I'll file as many complaints as I can for harassment until this goes away. Until Gloucestershire Live removes that article. Or I'll have my day in court with them once I save enough money. Because it is a lot of money to save. And if I have to take this to a retrial as well, I will. So that my side of the story gets heard. Whether it's too late or not, I don't know. But I will do something if I have to make sure that this gets sorted. But either way, guys, I love you. There's nothing you could do about it. Take care. God bless.